As the sun rises over the quiet plains of northeast Kansas, a golden light spills across open fields and grain silos, revealing a town almost hidden in time. Axtell. With a population of just a few hundred, Axtell was born in the age of steam engines and wide-open promise, built on grit, faith, and the unshakable bonds of community. Here, life unfolds slowly, deliberately, and in that stillness, something rare and beautiful persists. Today, it stands as a testament to resilience, tradition, and community, where every face is familiar, every story matters, and every Friday night is ingrained in the lives of Eagles everywhere.
Touchdown!
And this is their story. In the fall of 1985, the Axtell Eagles did something no team before them had done. They reached the state title game. It was a first in school history, and it sent a surge of pride through every corner of town. Though the championship slipped through their fingers, the fire had been lit.
In 1980, Don Day was really a catalyst for getting Axtell competitive on the football field. And so when he got here, he instilled a sense of discipline. He got us in the weight room. Our weight room was small. We didn't have much for weights. Of course, back then, a lot of us, we worked on the farm. Most of us grew up on the farm, and we did a lot of, dads kept us busy, hay bales and cutting cane and pulling weeds. And so we never had a down minute. We were always there. But when Mr. Day came, he did a wonderful job of getting our teams better. And pretty soon it got to be where, when you played Axtell, we might not win every game, but you're going to get hit. And he related well in the community too. He got the community start to become involved.
The coach actually came to us fall before, and asked us, seniors, what we wanted to do. He made the decision up to us if we wanted, because it was a 2-year cycle, so the year after us was going to play 11-man too, and they only had 3 seniors out and 3 or 4 juniors, I believe. So that was a big choice for us.
Seems like a very unselfish thing to do. A bunch of 11, 12 seniors to go from 11-man to 8-man, meaning that not everybody's going to be on a starter role anymore.
Some guys just didn't play both ways, where before that people were playing both ways. So we had a lot more, just playing offense and some just playing defense. So still got the playing time in. My junior year, we went and played Midway Denton, which they had a big run and 8-man before that.
1984, we played our first 8-man game. We went over to Midway Denton in the midst of their streaks of when they were rocking everybody.
Kind of got our tails handed to us the first half.
And they rolled us. It was 44-0.
We had a little idea what the game was like. Grades behind us, we had to play 11-man. It would have been terrible. Yeah, there maybe even not even had enough kids for certain games if they had got anybody hurt. So.
They smoked us, but they showed us how to play 8-man football. So the following year, in 1985, we knew that we were going to be playing 8-man, but we had to fulfill our 11-man schedule first. So we played 4 11-man games, and then we finished the year playing 8-man football. And we had some guys who were fast, and we could throw the ball around a little bit. And we didn't lose again that year until the championship game. And that was really our first taste of success, I guess, really on the football field.
Yeah, you guys make it to a state title in 85. Doesn't happen again until 93.
It's always been hard to win. And I say hard to win because our league is so competitive. You had the Midway Dentons, you had Bern, you had Baylorville, Centralia, Frankfort, Hanover. You got to beat those guys. If you can beat those guys, you have a chance to win state, because that's how competitive our league is.
8 years later, in 1993, that dream became reality. The Eagles claimed their first ever state championship, writing their names into Kansas high school football history. It was a golden moment, brief but brilliant.
I was part of the 1993 state championship team, so that was a really big deal at the time because it had been a while since they've been to state, and that's the first time we ever won state, and we thought that was a big deal at the time. And now seeing what these guys are accomplishing now is just it's unbelievable, really, how they've managed to do this, and they make it look really easy, how they're just rolling through the competition. So there's always been a pretty good tradition with Axtell football coming in here. Back then, I just remember how much support that we had behind the team, because the year that we won state, the year before, we had a 4-5 record. So we really didn't have that much expectations coming into what would have been my junior year. and to go through and go undefeated, it was one of those things that I'll never forget.
What was it like having the fans in the stands, the ability for them to travel on road games in the playoffs, and then ultimately hoisting that trophy?
One of the things that, for example, we had 2 members on the 93 team that were both National Guard, the late Eric Oldhouse and then JP Richardson. And when they came back from boot camp, we instilled a new tradition that every Wednesday morning we would run in the morning around town doing chants and things like that. And you would see people coming out on their porches, drinking coffee, watching us run a mile or whatever it was. So, I feel like it's just continually built upon that. I mean, the game itself's evolved so much more that I kind of almost wish that we would have been in the similar type offensive scheme that they do now, because there's more passing, there's more things like that, whereas it was more traditionally just a running team back then. But you could just see the pride. I mean, like I said, I graduated 30 years ago, this May, and I'm still following the team. I have no family lives here or anything, so. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, the pride aspect of it, it's beaming out of you.
Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, we had a tradition where we'd go out and run in the morning. We run around town for conditioning in the mornings, and how many citizens around town would come out and watch us and cheer us on as we were just jogging around town and doing chants and cheers, things you didn't even think of, how much they got behind our team, traveling to the road games, just seeing all the signs and everything. It was pretty incredible.
There used to be a big thing that the football team would run from the high school down to the practice, down there to the game field and practice. And they do chants, and so forth and so on. Kind of fired the community up. Well, when success started rolling, I'm not too sure that people didn't come out of their house to watch that. It was building esprit de corps, if you will, and enthusiasm and support. There's been a lot of pride developed.
When we won the state championship in '93, it was like we were a king of the world. I mean, it had never been done in Axtell. No sport had ever won a state championship. Man, the community was all over it. They thought, it was great, and it was great. As a 16-year-old kid, cars and girls and football, and football is at the top of that, and that's all there was, and it was awesome, and that's one thing that kind of led me into coaching. It's like, if we could push other kids in that same position, let them feel that success, because I do think that builds character in some of those kids, for going down the road to realize, it takes hard work to win a football game, to win a football season or championship. A lot of sweat goes into that. And teach these kids that it takes hard work in life, to succeed. And you can't just skate by and expect to be the best. And, you got to put in the time. And so I do feel like if you can relay that, to those other kids, I think that's great. But it was awesome in '93. I mean, it was nothing I'd ever experienced. I mean, it was great.
Yet after the confetti settled and the echoes of cheers faded, the years ahead were marked more by rebuilding than celebration. Still, through every hard-fought season, the town stood by its team. Because in Axtell, pride isn't measured only by trophies, but by the spirit that endures long after the final whistle.
There was a time about that 2003, 4, 5, there was a lot of turmoil going on in the school, and from the athletic standpoint, we were competitive to a point. We might get to the playoffs and win the first game, but we didn't usually do much beyond that. We'd win some games, but we never could get to the big house. Unless you had your I's dotted and T's crossed, you probably weren't going to win.
I would say we're a caring community. We care about what we have and what we can do. We're not waiting for people to come do stuff for us. We have the bar and the grocery store and the fitness center. People are coming back. Our kids are coming back. They want to be here. The reason they want to be here is because we care. We want them to be here.
Yeah, well, that's I think that's by far the best attribute that this community has is it's if there's something that needs done, like there's never a red tape or anything like that. It's all right, when and where, and that goes with not just the school, not just sports. That is just with anything. I mean, the church, anybody needs help. I mean, they have fundraisers all the time. And that's pretty special. And I think these kids that see that, they come up through that, and then they graduate, and you know, if you're fortunate enough to come back, and then they're doing that, and they're reciprocating the same things that they saw. But the people here are truly special, and I've heard that from folks outside of town, and like, how do you guys get all this stuff done? You're just kind of born and raised with it here, and it is a truly special, tight-knit community that's able to do that for everybody. It doesn't matter what it's for or where. It's just everybody steps up when it's needed, and it's a great feeling to have that security, and you know, you have always somebody has your back here. So.
10 years ago, we started a booster club. We didn't have a booster club here. You know, we have a small school. Funds are tight. And this was a way for the community to be able to, we had fundraisers. We started with $0. And next thing you know, we're able to buy new uniforms for the kids or equipment, helmets, whatever the basketball coach, whatever the track coach needs. If the teachers need new desks in their room or whatever, all of a sudden we got this fund that we can go to, and we can try to get what the coaches want. If you go down to our football field, I mean, when I played, I mean, we had, it seemed like we had more dirt and mud and rocks than we did grass. And now the turf is fantastic. We've got some guys in town, that's their job. They take care of the turf. And a couple of years ago, a couple of guys thought we needed an electronic scoreboard. And the next thing you know, about 6 weeks later, we had it up for the first game. Before that, even, Derby High School, they were putting in new bleachers. Well, they had aluminum bleachers. So we purchased some of those, and a group of farmers went down and tore the bleachers down and reassembled them here. And so, but it takes everybody. You know, it takes the person who knows how to do it. It takes a lot of guys like myself are willing to help, and you just jump in, and it's fun to work together as a group.
And people are still talking about the 85 team, the 93 team. Why is it so special in Axtell?
Everybody just wants to be a part of it. You know, like for me, it's my kids now. You want success when you're the player. It's more special when it's your kids.
But the real test came not on the field, but in the heart of the community. In the early 2010s, a proposed school consolidation threatened to erase Axtell from the map, not just as a district, but as a living, breathing identity. The school, the teams, the traditions, all stood on the edge of vanishing. For the people of Axtell, this was more than policy. It was personal. And in that moment of uncertainty, the town found its resolve.
When we was closing, it was disheartening. You just couldn't think about, you didn't want to close the school, we wanted to keep it open, just want something.
Axtell themselves have absorbed other areas. Is that something that is just part of the pride in bringing people back here, is to ensure that there's no possibility for that here?
Well, it's always possible that we close. We as a district, and we Axtell burned Summerfield, and we absorbed Summerfield in, and it's been great. I mean, they've been good kids and helped the school out. When the government wasn't funding the schools, and we was down to, we're either going to close or we're going to consolidate. We have to do something. Thank God the government come back and started funding the schools, and we could stay here. And my gosh, we're still going.
And I think that's a big point that people kind of forget with small communities, because there's a lot of small communities that don't have their school anymore that are this size. And the ability for Axtell to stay thriving in their community with the successes of their schools is really, really something that I feel like we really want to highlight, that it's all because of the people that live here.
Yes, very much so. Very dedicated people. When we was talking consolidation, so they were going to take, or 1 through 6, we weren't going to have a junior high or nothing. And we have a new gym, we got a secondary gym, we have facilities here. So one of the big things in the community was, well, what are we doing? Why can't we have at least a junior high, something that we can still have here and support? And they just wouldn't have anything to do with it. No. Even Stephen, we're 6th grades, we're going to have 6th grades. And he says, well, I'll tell you what, we'll just switch it around. We'll take the high school, you can have the other ones. We'll take 4, you can have 8. Oh, no, they threw that out the door real quick. They said, no, we're not doing that because they think we have an old building and it's needs repairs and all this kind of stuff. And the talks broke down. We went talked to Sabetha. They came in and said, yeah, and everything was agreed. The community got behind it and thought, yep, that's what we want to do. We want to keep our school here as long as we can because, without a school, town's going to go, and everybody is going to move to where the school's at. And so stay, if we can keep a school as long as we can, it's going to be the best. So that's, the people got behind it and said, yep, it's consolidated with Sabetha and try to keep our school as long as we can.
These other areas that we're talking about with the community fitness center, the grocery store, ACES, those weren't around when this consolidation conversation was happening, correct?
Correct.
And so you see the community realizing if we want to keep this going, we need to invest into our own community.
Pride has really grown for what we can do, what we have done. This town's amazing. It really is for what they can do. We had great following when we're winning, but it seems like we have a really good following when times are lean also. We've had lean times and we've always had pretty good crowds. Just the support. The town supports a lot of Axtell Eagles.
From the edge of disappearance, something extraordinary began. With renewed purpose, the football program was rebuilt, not just with talent, but with tenacity. New coaches, Eric Detweiler, Dale Bussing, and Craig Weeby emphasized discipline, accountability, and a culture of excellence that went far beyond the scoreboard. The result? An active 52-game win streak, 4 state championships, a level of dominance in 8-man football that turned heads across Kansas and a nation. What rose from near erasure wasn't just a team. It was a symbol of what happens when a community refuses to give up on itself.
2013 rolls around, Axtell Public Schools needs a new football coach.
Right.
And in the spring of 2013, you have the opportunity to interview not just one, but a few guys to maybe fill that role. These guys were not people that were a part of the school, though.
Right.
These are Rule 10.
Right.
For those that don't know, meaning that means that you don't work for the school district. You have an outside profession, and you're allowed to come in and coach as a Rule 10.
Right. Those 3 guys were interested in coaching football for Axtell High School. I knew they were all graduates, and they were all good athletes, and they were always supporting. They were at basketball games, and their kids were little. Football games, they were big supporters of community. And as a superintendent, looking for people that can build the program. And I'm not talking just wins and losses in football. I'm talking about academically. I'm talking about community involvement, those kinds of things. These 3 fit the bill. So I said, guys, I want to interview you, but you're all 3 coming in at the same time. And we talked about the very thing you just mentioned, and that was that you're Rule 10. And there's some things you have to do and commit to it before you would get a job offer. So we sat down and we started talking. And I said, you're going to continue running your own business. But when you come to school, you're part of our school. And there are expectations of things that have to happen with this program. And if you're willing to commit to that, then I'm more than willing to continue the conversation. For example, I needed a file on all your practice plans before that practice. I needed to know if anybody was hurt at any time, anywhere. If you've got any equipment problems, if you've got shoulder pads that need replaced or those kinds of things. And it took a while to grow that, because this was all new to them. They were very in tune to that and said, we want to build the program. That's why we're here.
You've had the opportunity of announcing the names of the coaches that are now coaching at Axtell when they were players through the program. What's it like for you to kind of sit back and kind of give a little perspective on, I remember when, what they're doing now and who they are. I remember when they were little runts at freshmen in high school or something like that.
Yeah. Well, you see the drive in people, and our coaches, you can see the drive they had playing they have the same coaching. They got to drive to win. They sure do.
Coach Detweiler, his first year, you were a senior. What I want to know from you is that transitional period from before Eric to your senior year. You notice anything different? Any changes that happened in off season to beginning early part of the season of your senior year?
Yeah, I mean, I think the big thing was just new energy in the building or in the weight room and things like that. A little bit more, I guess, they demanded a little bit more from us right away. Wouldn't let you get by with stuff. They wouldn't let you slack. Yeah.
My class and I, there was only 3 of us, and we always talked, we were good. That's what we always told each other. We were good. And we wanted to win bad. And freshman, sophomore year were disappointing for us. That summer, going into our junior year, I think we were probably in the best shape we'd ever been. At the end of the sophomore year, when Eric and Craig and Dale and them came in and told us they were going to be our coaches, I could tell then that things were going to be different. They wanted to know, even before we started our summer weights program, they wanted to know what we were lifting, how we were lifting, how much weight, what we did, and then going into that summer before the season, they completely changed our fitness routine. I mean, everything in the weight room was regimented. We did this, and then you did this, and then after weights you did this, and everything was written down and documented, so you were progressing and not just going in there and messing around, I guess would be the best way to say it. But it was very intense from the start. We were there to play a game and win, which was important to my class.
One of the biggest things with the football program was the weight program. It's just incredible how they ran that program. And they got kids to buy in. And one thing I told them, I said, you're going to have in a small school, chances are you're going to turn some of your people over, meaning graduation, and you're not going to have replacements for them. But when the kids bought into it, you could see that problem was kind of being eliminated because they were getting, more kids out for football than ever. You're going to have kids that want to play football because of the social. They want to be around the kids. They really aren't football players, physically, mentally, but they want to be part of a team. When you have kids like that, you need to nurture them and coach them just like you would somebody else. Football really doesn't need them, but they need football. You see what I'm saying? It's important that they're part of a team, that they experience success. And every team has a few players like that. And if they won the state championship, when they're 40 years old and somebody says, did you play football? Yeah, we were state champs. But they were part of a team.
When it's the players' dads, uncles, cousins, family members that are so vested in this school, and it's not just football, it is academically, it is extracurricularly. What does it mean for you to not only be a part of it, but have your own kids go through this community as well?
Yeah, it means everything. Everybody that comes here, it says, Axtell's really got something special. And I'm like, yeah, it is. They really know that. And a lot of people tell us, like, what you guys are doing is not normal. Whether the parents want to be invested, they want their kids to succeed. They want the community to thrive. Like we got a new grocery store, a year or two ago. And so they want the towns to succeed and having people invested to do all that, getting their hands and feet wet, getting them involved kind of makes them feel more important. And they want everybody to be successful as well. You look back and we've definitely had our struggles, and I can remember a few off the field struggles that we had, and we forced them to do a little conditioning, gelling, and getting along well. And I feel like sometimes that turns the point within the kids. They all like, hey, we gotta look out for each other. We gotta be, we gotta have each other's back, whether it's on the field or off the field. We gotta make sure we're doing the right thing. And when you have those learning moments like that, I feel like that really makes those kids gel and understand that we're doing this. It's bigger than me. It's the whole of everything. And community is great. Grew up here and always loved the community, and it's great to be part of that, and what you hear from people around in the community, how awesome it is, the old people at the coffee shop, man, they can't wait for football to start, and who do you think's going to be the quarterback next year, and what about this kid, how's he going to do, and and who's going to step up, and it's great to hear that. It brings back a lot of pride, brings back a lot of memories to back when I played. It's like, man, it's like you don't realize what you have until you play that last game and you're on the sideline and watching from the sideline. And now it's like you realize, dang, I should have tried a little harder. I should have done this, or maybe I should have tried that. And so some of that's what I try to bring to coaching is that, it's like you only have so many games. Give it all you got. Don't regret anything. Put it all out there. And the community is just awesome. They show up and they're so proud to be part of it, and I just had a guy the other day actually said, you guys are coaching forever, right? And I said, well, I don't know about that. And he says, I'll do all your farm work. He says, but I can't coach. So you need farm work done, I'll come do that, but you just keep coaching, and they just want to be part of it, and they just want it to continue, and so it puts a lot of expectations out there, but hey, just show up and do the best you can and go on. But the community's great.
And just being from here, I guess you really take pride in that, knowing, when I played, we weren't that good, obviously. We didn't win a state title. Dale was fortunate enough to win one as a player. And, Eric and I, neither one of us did until we got into coaching. And then that's the first one we won. And it's, I guess, just pride in seeing on Friday night, you see all the second and third grade kids down there, all the boys lined up. When our players run through the handshake line after the game, giving them all, those young kids a high five after the game. And you can tell those young kids are just looking up to those boys in high school and wanting to be just like them playing. And it means a lot to see that from those younger groups. Because, heck, I remember going to games when I was in, second and third grade and seeing those guys out there playing and, how much of a role model they were and knowing that that's what those kids are looking up to. And I probably got a little different perspective because I'm not standing on the sideline. I'm sitting up in the press box and I can see the stands completely full around me. And just seeing the range from, you got a kindergarten girl there to a 85-year-old grandpa and grandma sitting there watching the game, and the stands are packed. And you can just tell what it means to everybody. A few years ago, we had a playoff game when we had, I'm going to say 4 or 5 inches of snow that day. And we sent out a text message, and within 2 hours, we had 30 people here with snow shovels shoveling the snow off the field so we could play that night. You don't get that everywhere that you go. And I know that's something special that the community brings here. Everybody wants to be involved. And that's great for us, to have a community that's so supportive towards us. If we need something or we need help with something, all we got to do is send a message or something out, and I can guarantee you there will be somebody that's willing to help us with whatever it is that we're needing help with. And they were always there for us.
I can remember so many times in the last 10 years, I'd drive into town and the football coaches would be putting in a sprinkler system on the football field. They would be out there marking the field at the beginning of the year. Just little things like that showed the community that these guys are serious.
Could you have ever imagined what came down the line, what Axtell has seen since those meetings?
The honest answer is no. And that just shows you the kind of program they ran. Roy alluded to the little things, running the play right. That's so important. Because if you've got a week where the competition's not very good and you let them slack off through practice or halfway run a play or execute a tackle or a block, you're not going to win. You're not going to win at the level this program has shown over the last 5-6 years.
The difference between the good coaches and the coaches that aren't so successful is they expect your best. And if you always give your best, success follows.
I want to go back to 2019 really quick, where you guys fall just short. What changed?
I think more than anything, it's confidence. The 19, we were beaten by Hanover for multiple years prior to that, and we finally beat them, broke through that sub-state ranking and, getting through that level. And obviously we got to state and lost, and we had the confidence that, hey, we can beat anybody, and confident in what we're trying to do. And, once we got to state, I think the burden of just getting past the sub-state level kind of left off our shoulders, and everybody knew that we were capable of, winning state titles.
Preparation is intense. If you could bring these cameras into our home on Friday night after the football game and watch what really goes on, most people would be shocked, because you would think the coaches don't get along, that we hate each other, because we're always, looking at something different than the other guy. And, we kind of challenge each other probably with that sometimes. And we can butt heads pretty good, but it probably makes us better because, we're challenging each other. And if somebody tells me, that kid isn't going to cut at this spot, or, that defense isn't going to work, that's just more motivation to me. It's like, oh yeah, it is too going to work. And I'm going to show you it's going to work. And so then it makes you rethink what you're doing in it challenges you, I think. And, you don't want someone that's just going to tell you what you want to hear. Sometimes you need that criticism. And those weekends, from the game on Friday night until practice on Monday, you cram a lot in there because you have to break down the old film, teach the kids what they did wrong, teach them what we want to do. We got to break down the new school we're going to play, that team, what they're doing, what we want to try to do, what we want to accomplish as goals. And there's a lot that gets crammed into that weekend. So they get really hectic and really busy, but it's a lot of fun. It really is.
If you look back from when we first started, we have completely changed what we've done. So I feel like the future, we have to continue to evolve. We can't just keep doing what we've done and feel like we're going to get the same results, because when that happens, somebody's going to pass you by. So we've got to keep evolving. The thing to do that's going to put us still a step ahead of somebody and make them still try to get up to us, get up to our level. But if we stop, if we're happy where we're at now, somebody's going to go right on by us. So we've got to find that next thing to get us to that next rung to keep ahead of our competition that's trying to knock us off.
What sets Axtell apart from the coaching perspective of things compared to other schools?
All the coaches do a great job in their field. Dad's obviously the offensive guy, guru. Dale's more the defensive guy, and then Craig, Quinn, and I all help out in each field a little bit, but each guy knows the role and does it to their best ability.
Tell me about the dynamics that change with leadership roles on a team when you win 52 straight games. What does that look like, and how do you feel like you fit into that with being a leader?
From what I've seen, I would say the first year, it was really Isaac Detweiler. He kind of led the charge, had everybody kind of in a rhythm to just follow suit and do what he did. He did that for 2 years, and then whenever he graduated, we kind of had just a cluster of guys that helped lead the way. There wasn't one true leader that kind of stuck out, I would say last year. But then this past year, I feel like Brandon Schmelza, he really stepped up for us, and he took control of that role as far as just leading our team whenever they're in a rough spot and stuff like that. You could see it go from one person to the other, but that 1 year we didn't have a true leader. The team that junior class, they really just stepped up and said, hey, this is how we do stuff.
Being a leader, me and Eli had to step in as freshmen, have a crucial role in our offense and our defense. And so just leading on throughout the years, sophomore, junior, senior, it just helped us become better leaders for the freshmen and sophomores that were below us. And so that just helped out tremendously.
Me and Brandon didn't really have to step into the leadership role until probably our junior, senior year. We still had Grady Bussing and those two other seniors, but our leadership, me and Brandon, I think our leadership styles is you go out, you show your youngers what they need to do, and they just try to follow it. I don't picture myself as a vocal leader because I tend to lose my composure because I'm a defensive-minded player, just want to hit someone. But other than that, I think leadership through freshman to senior year has gotten a lot better. Everybody expects you, they look up to you, and they want you to be the one to tell them what they're doing wrong or let them know about it, or else what's the point of having an upperclassman if you're not going to do anything about keeping people accountable?
I think our culture was set by the seniors. I came into high school, and they showed hard work is the only way to do it. They pushed you to the limits. They didn't let you slack off. The seniors started the culture. It was pretty special. They made you work hard, and they showed you what it takes to win a state title.
Culture here it's awesome. Especially in my 4 years, you have all the fans come. Every kid is committed to every sport. We don't do any stupid stuff off the field. We don't do any stupid stuff on the field. And that's coming from Eric, teaching us every single year, every senior class. They tend to lead very well, and that's the culture Eric has built. And when we were younger, our school program has always been pretty competitive, and it was always fun to watch all the older generation of Axtell athletes and how we improved our culture, I feel, has very well impacted our community.
It's kind of one of my pet peeves. I really hate out-of-shape kids, and I've always seemed like I always watched, football games and towards the third and fourth quarter when it's the most important, most in crunch time. But we got kids that are tired or, out of shape. And so that was always something that I hated watching on a football field. And so I said, if I'm ever going to be a coach, I'm going to make dang sure that that's not a problem. So county fair is something that we actually did when I was playing in high school. It's a thing that we do. We start every practice with it. It's basically 45 minutes of conditioning. We kind of got a drill on one corner of the field, and the other drills on the other side of the field. So we're really catty corners, far ends of the field, and Dale Bussing, my assistant, he does one set of drill down there, and I'll do another set of drill down there, whether it's monkey rolls or bear crawl, or we got a cone drill where we kind of do side shuffle and back pedal and all the way around that. But there's something at each station. And so we do that for about 3 to 4 minutes each, and then we blow the whistle, and then they need to sprint from one corner to the other corner of the football field. And then they do that in session. And so we do that. We end up doing it's 4 sessions. So it's about, 4 times 2, it's 8 sessions long. So we do that for quite a while. And when we first implemented that, it was something that our kids were not used to. They were never conditioned like that, and I think their lives, to be quite honest with you. And we had kids throwing up. We had kids, honestly, I had 2 or 3 quitting. They were like, we can't do this. And I said, yeah, I know you can. You don't realize you can do it.
If you jump off sides on sled, you do push-ups, right? And the seniors' favorite thing to do is jump off sides and makes the rest of the team do push-ups. And one day, we were pushing the sled, and a freshman comes along. He's super small, and he jumps off sides. And he falls down, and the other side pushes the sled around, and he goes underneath the sled, and he's stuck underneath the sled. That's my favorite memory of all time.
We hate county fair. County fair is a conditioning drill. We all want to get out of it, but we have to do it. When we're all exhausted and we do the sled, so then someone just jumps off sides and we have to do 10 push-ups. I mean, it's worth it. We get a break. But yeah, that's the reason.
Those practices suck, but yeah, we get through them. I won't miss it at all, to be honest, but I mean, I'm sure, I don't know if anyone said it, everyone thinks I loathe county fair, but I'm just smart about it. You can't really see it, but if we got brought into the fourth quarter, we were never tired because of Eric. I mean, usually we didn't have to go to the fourth quarter, but every single game we went in the fourth, everyone else is cramping, having all these problems. We're just fine. Everyone's ready to roll.
Every year it seemed like for the first 2 or 3 years, we had kids that were not comfortable in working that hard. And I said, no, it's a mentality thing. We just got to get over it. And, we're not going to be tired. I want you to think tired. And it's just normal for our kids now. It's not hard to them at all. They understand why we do it. And that's a big thing for us our kids to understand. Why are we doing such things in practice? Why do we have to go through all this work and running and bear crawls and monkey rolls and one of our sessions is a hill up there. We just run the hill for 4 minutes, but like I said, there's a couple of times where Dale and I had to address something before practice, and before we know, our assistant managers were down there running. Our kids, they were not trying to skip out on it. They wanted to do it. They needed to do it. So, our managers were running county fair for us before we even got down there, and it's something that it's something special that I think, I will always do. It's a mentality thing that our kids, got to work hard. They got to think tired and something to work themselves through to make themselves better. And it's working for us. Our kids are comfortable in it now. And it's something special that, I think that we do that. The kids still moan and groan about it, but they know why they do it and what the point is. And they're willing to do it at this point.
It just shows the dedication and commitment we all have. We all want to win. We've built that culture, and no one else will do that. That's why we get the results we get, and we keep winning.
Every state title is something special, right? I mean, everybody knows how much hard work it is. Like you said, can you imagine, like I said, going back to county fair and working on that. We do that every day until basically our last 3 playoffs game. And for our kids to be able to go through all that work and win a state title that's proven that county fair that has a purpose. Everything has a purpose, but every state title is special. You graduate seniors every year. The next kid wants to step in and fill his role and not disappoint his teammates.
Coach, I want to ask you about the fact of the word legacy and all that means to different people, but what does that mean to you?
To me, when you think of legacy, you think, how does that coach or that time frame, how are they remembered? And I guess one thing that I would like to think of everybody to remember me by is that we tried everything our ability to win every game. I don't think a lot of people understand how much work it goes in between Friday night and Monday to get prepared for the next week. And I think so, legacy to me is, like I said, they remember that we tried everything possible to win every single game, and then obviously, that's been working for us, and so also how are you remembered? Oh, he won 4 state titles, obviously that comes into that, but it's all the preparedness and everything else that comes into that. So, a lot of people, when I first started coaching, that guy is a guy that absolutely hates to lose, and there's a ton of truth on that, nobody likes to lose, but it's just something that's always been a pet peeve of mine is losing, and you need to find out a way to get yourself better to win, kind of like Michael Jordan said, at all costs. I'm not playing dirty, I'm not doing this, but you want to win, you want to do the work ethic, the preparedness to make your kids be successful to win that game, and legacy to me is be remembered that you wanted to win, do everything you could to make it win, and at the same time, and now we won 4 state titles, been to, I don't know how many sub-states, 3 or 4 that, we come up a little bit short, but it seems like every year we're in the playoffs and we're in the hunt to win a state title.
That's a great question. Legacy is, being remembered for probably doing something special. Not every school, not every team, can win 4 straight championships, 5 straight, whatever that is, 3 straight. It's hard to do that. And when you can get kids to buy in and build something like that and do something like that, it's really something. Back when I played, in '93, you thought you were on top of the world when you won the state championship, and you just want to relay that to the kids. Give those kids that same feeling. Let them think they're on top of the world.
Legacy means tradition or how you're going to be remembered. And that's something that we can hang our hat of how we're going to be remembered of. It's like, we've always done things the right way. We didn't cut corners. We've put a ton of hard work into this, and I don't think we'll ever have to look back and say, man, I wish we would have had to try harder, or I wish we would have tried this other thing, because I feel like we've gave it 100% effort. And legacy is, how you're going to be remembered, and tradition that comes along with it.
The actions of our players kind of speak louder than the words. They're leaving behind a legacy just by going out there and doing what they know how to do. That is just put in hard work, put in effort, support each other with the community support. They're just leaving behind a legacy that they want kids to follow in their footsteps, and they just want to keep Axtell being great. So I think everybody that's gone through Axtell, they've done that a little bit, but I think in these last 4 or 5 years that it's grown that much more, and that kids want to keep being a part of that, and people are actually starting to move back to the community because they want their kids to be a part of that as well.
Don't take it for granted. I know the seniors now never lost a game. They'll never experience that, but I've lost a few in my career, and there's not fun things to do. So I'll just tell them, don't take it for granted, and work hard in the summer so you don't have to experience that.
Just like our senior class, they'll have a legacy of going 52-0 in their high school career, and hopefully I can do the same thing.
The legacy I want everyone to know is that we're the hardest working team in the state, and hopefully we leave a footprint for little kids to follow us and lead to state championships.
When I leave, I hope that they can keep winning, keep it going. It's definitely going to be tough, and I hope they understand that you don't take anything for granted. We've definitely left a legacy here, my class and the other classes ahead of us, and hopefully the ones to come. And I just hope they keep going and that we've done everything to help them succeed.
In-person relationships, even outside of sports, having those are the most important part of my life. And I just want people, even off the field, that's what all of our coaches preach, is we want grown men that are good husbands, have good families, and really are good fathers. So that's the way that they teach us, that's the way they coach us, and that's what they hope for us.
Knowing that you gave your best regardless of what everybody expected of you. Legacy, 4 championships, 2 in track as well. Hopefully get another one in basketball, but legacy is knowing you did your best, and hopefully people can continue that.
What does the future look like for you with expectations of the program as you guys continue on to try and reload heading into next year?
Obviously, we lost 6 seniors this year, and a couple really special, athletes. I think 5 of our 6 seniors started, and all 6 played, multiple important minutes and roles throughout the season. So every year we got to, rebuild, reload, and like I talk about that, having that team identity of shuffling kids around but the best part about it is we was probably as deep as we ever were last year on kids that were ready and willing to play. They just got to learn to, like you said, take on that new leadership role and fill that role of how are we going to be as a team, find our identity. And I think it's important to, to work on that in the off season and build confidence throughout all summer long and go into that. And I think we're comfortable where we're at. I think the future definitely looks bright for us. I think everybody's kind of saying, oh, you guys lost all your horses, you guys are going to be down next year. Well, we're still comfortable in our shoes of what we're trying to do, and I feel excited about the future, that's for sure.
We're not always going to win a state championship, but that doesn't mean we can't always be champions. Championships are just one piece of the pie, but it's been a good ride.
It's been a tasty pie, hasn't it?
Yeah.
But this is the nation's longest winning streak in 8-man history.
Yeah.
This is if Axtell was to win 2 more consecutive state titles, that would be the tied for the most in the history of football in Kansas.
Right.
All classes.
Yeah. This was done the right way. All this success, community support, booster clubs, sportsmanship, all of those things. It was done the right way. It wasn't like you were recruiting a bunch of kids to come in here,
sure,
and all of that. So it's pleasing to know they're going to go on and be successful. It's not like they step out of here and they become bums. That's not it at all. Right. They're very successful, and a lot of kids in this part of Kansas come back home and involve themselves in opportunities in the community.
Because in the end, this story isn't just about football. It's about resilience. It's about identity. It's about a small community that stood tall when it could have faded away into the face of consolidation. This documentary is not only about wins, but also about the people who fought for their place, who built something lasting, and who showed the rest of the world what it means to never back down. This is Axtell. This production has been made possible by Soaring Booster, B&D Buildings, Blue Boosters, Axtell Booster Club, Axtell Community Fitness Center, R&L Rentals, State Bank of Bern, Axtell Branch, AEDC, and Little Joe's. White Booster, Axtell Lumber, and Red Boosters, Eagle HVAC, Aces, and Ag Partners Cooperative.